Hello. Happy Wednesday out there in Fish Twitter, Fish virtual world. How's everybody doing? My name is Brian Brinkman. I'm a producer here at Osiris Media, but you probably already know that by now. Happy to be hanging here on Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, wherever you may be, to do HF Pod on tour. We're getting close to the end of these things. We're getting close to the end of the tour, the final run of the 2021 summer fall tour combo is coming up here. The only things we have to look forward to are New Year's Eve at MSG, which I'm really excited to see where the band takes us as we close out this just insane year. But before that, we have 4 shows that will be coming up in Las Vegas that we will be covering live here virtually. Day after, we'll be doing recaps, as well as you've probably heard by now, there are 2 HFPod live shows happening at the Brooklyn Bowl on October 30th and 31st at 1 p.m. Pacific. There's also a fan art exhibit one of those days. We have one guest who will be presenting at one of the fan art exhibits, who will be able to give me the exact information of where then when that is. So hold please on that confirmation. But should be really fun. There will be some great guests. Hosts from HFPod will be there. I will sadly not be there. My touring days are over for 2021. I saw Dick's, San Francisco, Phoenix, Chula Vista, and LA. Everything else is watching from the couch, which is okay. You know, it's okay to take in Fish from afar. I love how the band allows us all to have the experience to see what is happening in real time, even if we cannot be there. But I'm really excited for the rest of the gang to be doing the live shows from the Brooklyn Bowl, and hopefully, if you're hanging out in Vegas during the days of October 30th and 31st, you can go there as well. Before we jump into the show, I just want to remind everyone, HF Pod on Tour is presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis. Shift Genuine Cannabis has been a phenomenal partner here at Osiris Media for some time now. We really love working with them. We love what they've been able to do to really, bring this show back, allow us to bring live real-time content to you about Fish Tour. And we have a lot more to come with Shift Genuine Cannabis here in the near future. So please visit shiftcannabis.com for all your cannabis needs here in the state of Colorado. And I also want to give a shout out to our media partner at Jambase. Without Jambase, I don't know where Osiris Media would be. They've been such huge friends, huge collaborators, huge partners for us here at Osiris Media. We want to give them a huge shout out here. So, with all of that out of the way, we have 2 guests today, 2 awesome guests today who are both at the show last night. I'm really, really, really excited to be talking with them. I'm going to bring on Jamil here first, who is a Santa Barbara native, seen a bunch of fall tour shows. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Santa Barbara show last night, as well as kind of where the band is at in the context of this larger tour. Jamil, how are you, my man?
Hey Brian, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. That was a fun show last night.
That was quite a show, and it's like it's so funny. I mean, coming from the forum, it just shows how different this band can be night
Totally.
to night, depending on the venue. You've got 2 shows in the same week, big indoor arena venue versus smaller seaside pavilion. And we got 2 just incredibly different shows as a result. So I'm just loving it.
Not only that, but like the 3 shows that have happened, like Chula, LA, Santa Barbara, they're like 2 hours removed from each other. You feel like you're just seeing like, everyone can say Southern California, and it gives you this like singular idea of what that part of the country is. Driving through, it's 3 completely different places, but they all
Right.
feel a part of some larger, Southern California universe. But like the band was able to give us 3 completely different shows basically 2 hours apart from each other. It's pretty impressive. It's kind of like what they do or what they used to do when they would play like northeastern college towns, and like everyone was like an hour and a half to 2 hours away from each other, but you heard a different band each night.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, it was cool to hear. So you well, we were talking before we went live, and we'll get into this. You saw a few fall tour shows, but tell me like briefly, when did you start seeing Fish, and kind of where are you at as a Fish fan in 2021?
Yeah, so I'm 42. I started seeing the band in the mid 90s. When I was in high school. I think my first show was 6/17/95 at the what it was then called the Nissan Pavilion. It was
Yeah.
this great show, open with Divided Sky,
Yeah. Tweezer, Johnny Be
Weezer,
Good,
Johnny Be
Tweezer.
Good, yeah. So,
Great stuff.
and then and I grew up in Virginia, in Norfolk, Virginia, which is not too far from Hampton. So I was lucky enough; I got to see all the Hampton shows. You know what I mean? For a long
Wow.
time. I think I started to fall off sometime around 3.0 when I moved out west.
Okay.
But yeah, I saw them a bunch in high school, a bunch in college. I've never done. I mean, I think I've only seen like only, but maybe I've seen like 70 or 80 shows, but I've sort of been able to consistently see, like a handful of shows every year as a fan,
Yeah.
and I've been lucky to catch some good ones along the way. So, yeah, I moved out to Santa Barbara about 10 years ago. So I guess
Oh,
not
cool.
truly a native, but I certainly live here now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I've spent some time in Santa Barbara. I have family that lives there, and it's so wild to me. I was there for the summer and fall, late summer and fall of 2020 or 2010, excuse me. Helping out my brother-in-law had moved into a house and needed a bunch of work on it. And being there, I was kind of like, how cool would it be for Fish to come to a town like this? Because in Santa Barbara, you feel like you're slightly removed from LA, but you're still just 2 hours away. But it feels like it's its own kind of little enclave. And I was like, they would never play, a place like this, aside from like the late or the mid '90s when they played at UCSB. And then 4 years later, lo and behold, they announced that they're playing Santa Barbara Bowl. That happens again this year. It just feels like such a cool little Fish invasion of Santa Barbara, which
Well, yeah.
I would love to see in person at some point.
I mean, when in 2014, I was so psyched that they came, and everyone was saying, "Well, enjoy it because it'll never happen again." You know what I mean? They'll never come back here. We don't even know why they came here this time. In a way, I mean, I'm sure they love
Yeah,
playing here, but it's just the venue is so much smaller than what they play these days. And so I guess probably my suspicion is with the dates getting rejiggered with all the rescheduled 2020 dates that they just probably had this hole in the schedule, and we were because this was an
sure.
add-on show, so we were just kind of lucky to be the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, you think they played LA, they're probably not going to play Irvine. Where are they going to play between LA and Vegas? Well, Santa Barbara, we know that venue. We love that venue. It's kind of this like boutique little venue that you can go to, and fans are really lucky to have the chance to get in. And then when they're in
Right.
there, the band seems to like rewarding them. I really enjoyed that fall 2014 tour. Had some up and down moments to it, but I really enjoyed the Santa Barbara run, and felt like last night was really strong. So you've been seeing Fish for about 25-ish years at this
Something
point in
like that.
time.
Yeah.
Um, you saw, as we were talking, I'm going to try to get this right, San Francisco,
Yep.
LA, and Santa Barbara on this tour thus far.
That's right. And I saw Dick's on the summer tour.
Oh, cool. Cool. I
Yeah.
was at Dick's as well.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are your thoughts? You said you kind of fell off in early 3.0. Like, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts now? You've seen upwards of 10 shows this year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Fish 2021, and what were your thoughts seeing kind of these fall shows leading up to last night?
I mean, yeah, it's when I saw Dick's, I thought these are three really great shows by a band that's doing really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this fall, I think, is another level up from that. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
this is more like, I mean, I have not listened back to much of these shows yet, but like just being at the shows, they've all felt like all timers in a way. You know what I mean? Particularly SF Night One, parts of LA. You know what I mean? Just from an objective, put this tape on kind of way. Like, don't even count what was going on in the room. They just seem like incredible. You know what I mean? I mean, I think I would say these, for me personally, I would say these are the best shows I've seen since the Baker's Dozen. And again,
Yeah.
catching kind of a handful of shows every year since then. I was lucky enough to see 4 shows of the Baker's Dozen, and these almost feel like those shows. I mean, they're not repeating a lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Every night has some surprises. Every night seems to have a debut or two.
Yeah.
So it almost has that same structure in this like 13 show tour.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And like, I expected when they came back, in the summer that we'd have this kind of slow ramping up period where like they were they had a lot of new songs that they wanted to work into the rotation. We still have a lot of new songs going back to like Big Boat that have only been played a handful of times, and we don't totally know where some of them fit. Some of them have come and some have gone. Um, and I kind of figured the band would take time and maybe play a good show here, play a good show there. But like the summer was a lot stronger than I expected. And I feel like it was a lot stronger than a lot of fans generally expected. But, having that foundation set where they were already at a high level in summer, we don't have a ton of examples since the late 90s of them playing a really high quality summer tour and then coming back and playing a fall tour. Usually
Right.
it's they put everything in a summer tour because they're not playing fall. And so you get a 2012 summer, 2015 summer, 2017. Um, I was really shocked by just the quality of music that we were hearing from them over the summer. And then, like you, I went to San Francisco night one, and the band that closed out that first set, and then subsequently a 5-song second set and a 20-minute Carini encore, I walked out in just complete shock and disbelief. I was like, I didn't know that it was possible for them to play a show of that caliber at this point in their career.
And I think the thing too is that it almost has a 97 feel where they're just throwing the rules out the window for setlist
Right.
construction. It's like,
Right.
oh, actually Mama Dance will close the set. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
actually Slave will be the third song. You know what I mean? Like, like whatever. We don't care. You know what I mean? YEM will be the second song. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's like, it's so much fun because you feel like you see shows of this band for a while, and you feel like you start to understand the rules of the game a little bit. You see
Totally.
that on Twitter a lot. Be like, okay, well, this is kind of the point in the set where the ballad comes, or this
Yeah.
is going to be the big finish now. You know what I mean? And like these sets are keeping me on my toes. I don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen next. Which is kind of the whole point, to not know what's going to happen next.
Totally agree. Yeah. I mean, you can go back through early, like I was talking with a friend about this exact thing when we were waiting for the forum to start, where like there's always a sense of like you need to be in the venue when the show begins, but you also knew in the first set we were going to get a high energy opener. We were going to get a couple older songs that the band wanted to play, a few new songs here and there, and then we would end with like a character zero, and like the set would
Right.
be 10 songs. Maybe you get a fade into another song if they were feeling high energy, but like you were never really getting segues. And then the second set, you get a couple jams, ballads, and then energy to close it out. And then maybe like a contact slave on,
Right.
on like in the way that like, made it feel as though the band is playing within a structure, but kind of like ebbing and flowing within that structure. I don't feel like I feel like the structure of this tour is that there is no structure.
That's
They're like,
right.
we want to play this song right now and we're going to do it. We want to jam this song right now and we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's totally crazy, and these long encores that they're playing,
Yeah.
whether it's 1 20-minute song or like four
Right.
songs like last
Right.
night, it's amazing. Yeah. Should we dive into last night a little
I
bit,
was
or
going to say, let's talk a
yeah,
little bit about last night. So we open with a pretty rare song, Pebbles and Marbles. It doesn't, well, they played it at Dick's, so it's not a bust out, but it's a pretty rare song whenever it's played. And then this just completely goes off into a jam. Tell me about your thoughts as this was starting.
yeah, I mean, this was definitely this Pebbles and Marbles, that was one of those things where you kind of like, oh wow, this is going to be an it show. Like, I wonder what it's like when people are on YouTube, like watching like the free first song, and they see that 20-minute Pebbles and Marbles, where it's just kind of like, I mean, I have not heard every Pebbles and Marbles, but was it the best one? It's possible. I don't know.
I was thinking about that last night
Yeah.
because I have it with 22003 closes the second set that
Oh
night,
yeah.
and it
Sure.
doesn't completely go into a type 2 jam, but it really expands the idea of what Pebbles and Marbles can be in this like kind of shoegaze wall of sound style. There's also a version from Vegas '04 where they play, it's like 17 minutes. It's
Yeah.
good. It definitely is a little rough around the edges. This one I think was probably like the strongest if you want to take the song plus a jam. I think this was
Right.
probably the strongest
it,
version.
it was very clean, and it had a really cool, I mean, I just remember it as a very trancy type of jam,
Yeah.
like it was just a very cool way to start the show. Yeah.
Well, and you talk about like throwing the rules out. There was a moment where Trey and Fish kind of lock in on this percussive rhythm. And it sounds like they could just very easily go into Birds of a Feather, but they
Right.
played Birds of a Feather the
The
night
previous night.
before.
Yeah.
And it's almost as though they like kind of realize like, oh, we can't do that. So we have to just keep jamming.
Right, we just have to stick with this for a while. Yeah.
Right. Before we get too deep into the show, I'm going to bring our second guest on here,
Yeah.
Alex, so we can all dive through this. And then Alex, we'll dive into his larger project after this. So Alex Grosby, how are you, man? Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. I'm fantastic out here.
Awesome. So we were just talking, Jamil and I were just talking about the Pebbles and Marbles. I saw you like reacting every time we said something good. So I wanted to bring you on to comment on this as well. What were your thoughts on the Pebbles? Like a 20-minute jam, well, not only a rare song, but a 20-minute jam to open a show is a pretty cool thing.
I mean, it was funny because I was standing there and my friends hadn't shown up in my section, but I was chatting with the guys to my left from Seattle. And I was like, we were talking about what are they going to play tonight? And I was like, what I really want to hear tonight? I want to hear Pebbles and Marbles. And then it was just,
Wow.
bang, right from the get-go.
Wow.
So
I love that.
That was great. There was a garbage tease in there. Happy When It Rains. That was fun. There was a No Man's and No Man's Land tease after the Birds almost seg. So I've been hearing that a lot this tour. So there's been a lot of teases and a lot of Trey bringing interesting things to the table, and that Pebbles and Marbles fit the bill 100%.
Yeah, and there was we'll talk about it later because I want to hear if you guys got the tease that I heard. I think it was in Sneak and Sally, but we'll get to that when we get to the second set. So Pebbles and Marbles kind of fades down and we get Nakasupa Policeman, which is one of those songs that like I feel like if you hear that in the first set, it's just a sign the band is feeling really goofy and they're just like feeling on. It's kind of one of those songs that can be thrown into a second set to like spice up a show, but if it's played here in the second slot coming out of a jam, they're really feeling something. And this was a hilarious version of Nakasupa Policeman. I've gotten so many texts this morning that just start with hello.
Hey,
and I had how are you doing?
Thanks.
What did you guys think about this? I was laughing on the couch, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when they play like Santa Barbara, you kind of know that there's going to be some reggae or calypso in the show. Like
sure,
2014 shows, one of them opened up Soul Shakedown parties.
Oh yeah,
there was no surprise to me that we were, I was like, we're either going to get a Makasupa or Yamar or something like this is going to come out tonight. And it was just, like you said, it was hilarious. Yeah. And, it became a theme of the entire evening. So.
Once Trey likes a joke, it's coming back. Once he really likes a joke.
It was kind of like the NICU riff at Chula Vista, where like they seem to be picking up this like one thread and this, Jamil, you were talking about like the 97, connections here. And before we go any further down that road, I want to just be very clear. Like musically, there's a huge difference between what I think the band was doing in 97 versus now, but structurally song, in terms of a show, it feels that like anything is possible standpoint. And the like idea that this little gag isn't just a gag for this moment, it's a gag throughout the entire show. And it creates like a thematic unity to the entire show is something that I'm just loving about this tour. And yeah, that little joke in Makasupa followed us everywhere.
Well, but the other thought of it was like, it was a very band practice improv moment. That was kind of fun. Like he's just throwing out a mic. Let me try this. Let me see what Mike does. And Mike picked up the ball and ran with it. So,
that's a good point as well. Like I feel like that's the best shows from this tour have ultimately just felt like you're watching the band in the barn.
Right.
Yeah.
And they just happen to be in front of 20,000 people or at Santa Barbara, 5,000 people. But like, it just seems like it seems like sound checks come to life where they're just telling jokes. They're just trying things out. And if it works, oh my God, you're doing this in front of all of your fans who are watching at home. Like what a joy for everyone.
Yeah. It's like stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
This
riff works.
If it picks up, if it kills, it kills,
We then move into, I thought, and we'll talk about this, but like this first set I thought was really fluid and really just like everything worked, even though like if you were to show me this set list on paper, I'd kind of be like, okay. But sample into the Silver Light, we get the second sample jam ever.
Ever.
Yeah.
What did the venue freak out when they went into the jam? What was it like there?
Yeah, I mean, I think people were into it. I don't remember people like losing their minds
Okay.
necessarily. You know what I mean? But I mean, I don't know if Alex had a different experience, but I think people were just digging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think the energy in the venue swelled, but it wasn't like raucous. You know what I mean?
right.
Like people picked up on it, were excited, but they
Right.
also were attentive enough to follow along and not like
With what's happening.
go, you know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a cool little jam. I think that it did things that it was unfinished. It did things that the Baker's Dozen version didn't do, which seemed to just indicate that anything can jam tonight, and then we'll return to Sample in a Jar. And this one segues into the debut of the Silver Light off of Lonely Trip. Really nice little debut. I dug this a lot here. And I'm really liking the Lonely Trip songs throughout these last two tours.
Yeah, and I think that was actually one of the songs I liked the most off Lonely Trip, and one that I never thought they would play because I think on Lonely Trip it's almost just an acoustic guitar. Maybe there's a little bit more instrumentation, but it's pretty
Yeah.
spare, you know.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think now that I'm thinking back on it, I didn't expect them to play this one live.
Yeah, no, it was cool, you know. So I
Yeah.
guess like
I think my
always good. Good,
yeah, no,
sorry.
it's okay. You know, and I think what really stood out for me during the jam on this song was Paige.
Yeah.
Paige added piano to this song in a huge way that just
Yeah.
kind of lifted it up from where it was. You know, I really picked up on that.
Something I've been noticing throughout parts of the tour, and I think a lot of it from what I recall started in Eugene, where there were moments where Trey would just hold and sustain a note and just look at Paige and just allow Paige to like take
Mhm.
the lead. I think that there was a Lonely Trip in Eugene where Paige took the Trey solo and Trey just like looked at him with like so much, affection and love, from a friend, as like his best friend of 40 years playing music together. And then there was the number line from Eugene where Trey just holds a note and allows Paige to just go lead on piano. And I kept hearing that sort of stuff in Phoenix and Chula Vista, like giving Paige the center stage, especially on a tour like this where he's just adding so much to the jams. It just feels really special and unique in how these songs are being delivered. So we move then into Haley's, which we knew from a couple versions over the summer, as well as from San Francisco, that the ability for this song to jam, it's happening again. This song is very, very eager and able to jam, and it moves very seamlessly out of the Haley's song into what I thought was a really, really cool jam before moving into Mountains in the Mist, which was a very fitting call. What was your guys' experience listening to this?
You can go ahead, Alex. I feel like
All
I
right.
always go first.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's all right. You know,
Yeah.
I love the Haley's jacket back in the jam category. You know, it's really great
Yeah.
to see it back in there. You know, again, more teases throughout. Can you hear me knocking?
Yeah.
Almost a seg into twist, but then it became that Oyo Como Va jam, which was
Yes.
fantastic and really old school hose vibes. It was just beautiful there. And then the cool down into Mist. You know, Mist is always a pretty great cool down spot, but this time they just kind of nailed placement perfectly. I felt like it was just exactly what you needed after getting sprayed down.
Yeah, no, I mean that Oya Como Va, I mean that's as much of a jam as you can play without just saying you're playing the song. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I mean, it was so cool. And someone had told me I have to go back and look that maybe they first played the bowl with Santana. I don't know if that.
I think that's true.
Yeah, so there may be been a callback there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and Mountains in the Mist, like I got my first. It took me so long to hear this song live because they play it so sparingly. It might be my favorite Fish ballad that there is. This or Fast Enough for You, but I got it at Dick's 2019 right after a just insane ghost in the first set, and it just works so perfectly late in set one. You've had a lot of energy, you've had a lot of really good songs, you've had a lot of great jams, and now you just get this like cool down contemplation. You're in, you're at the edge of the Rocky Mountains, right on the Pacific coast. There's fog and mist literally every single morning in Santa Barbara. Like I don't know of a more perfect place outside of maybe like the Greek theater that you could play this song. So really, really fitting moment there. And the set ended with, and I want to ask you guys your impression of this. So Mole is probably my favorite Mike debut this summer. One of my favorite Mike songs for quite some time. This song feels like it's ready to jam, and it feels like the band could just let loose. And I thought we were getting that last night. I thought we were getting it in the Gorge version, and then we kind of faded into Set Your Soul Free. Can we jam a Mike song? Like, aside from Mike's song, like I would just love to hear what the band does. Like I feel like it would just add so much to what he brings to the table. Jamil, like what were your thoughts about this, just like from a song standpoint, and then from also like
I
as a
have
move
to
in the
admit,
jam?
this was my first time hearing Mole. I think it was the third time played, and I just hadn't heard the two other performances. And it was cool. Like, I think a lot of Mike's songs have a similar kind of thing where it takes me a couple listens to like really dig into them, and
Sure.
they all kind of have a similar, almost like, I don't know, like Chugally type of jam associated with them, and I thought it was good. They took it for a walk, but like, I guess you're right, they didn't really let it run, the way they might have. It was cool.
Yeah, no, I dug it. It was the first time I'd heard it live, and I didn't remember it that well from this summer.
Sure.
So when they started playing, I'm like, what is this cover? What is this? Kind of something. It felt like it kind of has that kind of Little Fleet influence, Destiny Unbound kind of vibe to it.
Totally.
That really, really tied it in. That was great. And I was like, is this a new Little Fleet? What? And so anyway, and I thought it was a great pickup from Mist. I thought it was a great like getting back in that groove. And it was a type 1 jam, but the jam, at least to me, was hard driving and soaring. They were at least taking it places. So I really enjoyed Mole where it was.
It's a safe bet anytime there's a Mike led song that you don't know what it is, to be like, oh, I think this might be a Little Feat song that I just don't recall.
It's like Robert Palmer, Little Feat, late 70s, early 80s.
Right, exactly. He definitely he loves that vibe, and that's what he writes in. And then this moved into Set Your Soul Free, which I don't know if they were coming close to curfew, like for set 1. I don't think it was like close to 90 minutes. I think the set ended up being around like 75 minutes, but this felt like a new take on Set Your Soul Free. It seemed like they did not anticipate being there. It felt like Trey kind of fell into Set Your Soul Free from a riff standpoint and was like, okay, we'll just use this to close out the set.
Right.
And whereas a lot of recent versions of this song have moved into that everything's right, Ruby Waves kind of atmospheric jamming in the second set. This moved towards a hard driving rock peak that worked really well in a way that I hadn't really expected out of Set Your Soul Free. Alex, what were your thoughts on this?
Set Your Soul Free, I think it was a great set closer. I think it really worked out. I think it picked up on the vibe from Mole. I think it was very organic, just kind of turning into it. It was like, okay, all right, we got Mike's riff and Trey's got a similar riff, and we're kind of snowballing into this jam from it.
Sure.
I think the ending was a little rough for me, at least.
The very end, right?
They could, at the very end of the song, when they came back to the theme, they couldn't figure out which key they had jammed in, and we're trying to finish it. It was like, do we play like? I wish they had just stuck with a key they were in and played the riff in that key, and it would have been fine. But Trey really wanted to get back to the original key. I couldn't figure out why. It was like, just finish the song,
or just don't finish it. Just have a big jam that closes out the set.
Like 6 tries to find the right key, and I was like, guys, just keep the key. Nobody else is gonna know if you're in the right key.
It's so funny you say that, man, because so 3 occurrences this in my shows this year, I've seen them play a very unexpected jam in a very unexpected spot and then force the ending. It's the set 1 at Dick's, night 1 Carini set closer, set 1 Phoenix, Ghost Closer, and the Encore Carini, where in all three instances they find themselves in a completely different key, and they are just like at 11, and it's like the whole stadium has their hands up, and all you got to do is hit that chord and end it and walk off stage, and nobody cares. Like, it's an unfinished version, and for some reason in every one of those instances Trey's been like ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like,
No, we
okay,
need to get it right.
now we're back. But yeah, with Set Your Soul Free, I don't know what your guys' vantage point was, but watching on the webcast, he started just kind of laughing to himself because he's singing the chorus and he keeps hitting this wrong chord, and he's like looking at his guitar like, what fucking chord is it? What am I doing?
Well, that's one of the great things about the bowl. It's so small that everyone can see that happening.
Right.
Yeah. I was in the last row and I could see what was going on. You know?
I really appreciate that you guys have that. It's like I love, and I'm so thankful for the fact that we are getting obscure set closers that are jammed. Like, thank you, Fish, for not just like slotting in character zero here, but it's just hilarious that there is this like persistence of, we have to finish the song. Like, so and so fans are gonna be upset if we play this cool jam and we don't finish the song.
No, it's like nobody's gonna know, Trey. Just finish the song.
I mean, I don't think Trey's listening back to be like, oh, we finished it, cool.
Well,
you know, like,
fair, they learned their lesson by the second set.
Yes.
You're right.
They did. So yeah, coming out of this, like, I think we're all in agreement. This was a really good first set.
Yeah. One of the best.
Like,
one of the best
yeah,
I've ever
this
seen.
was,
I'll say it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Like, I think that this was, I think I was talking with both of you guys about this individually, but like, there's something that's happening with this tour where every single person or someone different can walk away from a show and be like, that was the best show I've ever seen. And you can't really be like, no, you know, like there are certain tours where, like, and I've been guilty of it at times, where I walk away from a show, I'm like, that's one of the best shows I've ever seen. And I listen back a couple weeks later, I'm like, I just had a really good time, you know? Like, this is a tour where I feel like you can walk away saying, for pretty much every one of these shows, that was the best show I've ever seen. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, I don't know how to argue someone out of it. I want to pause really quick. Jamil, I know that you are on a work time crunch. Are you cool to hang for a second set conversation?
So
cool.
You guys, yeah.
Cool. Well, I will start with you so you can get these thoughts out just about the second set. Tell me, before we get into like a song by song breakdown, tell me generally, what were your thoughts on the second set here?
I mean, yeah, for me, I mean, I love the first set, but second set for me was definitely the highlight of the show, probably specifically the first 75% of it, which is not to say anything undue about the closing of the set, but it almost felt like, you know, we're coming up on Halloween, and I felt like we were getting a lot of like horror movie music, for lack of a better word, like blaze on into these like this crazy dissonant jam, you know, then it Sea of Stars, another crazy dissonant jam, then like 46 Days, where like all of a sudden you feel like everyone in the venue feels like they're actually going insane, you know what I mean, for like a couple of minutes there. I just thought it was, you know, it was just awesome. I mean, it was so different from what I've seen from them on this tour and recently. It was so creative. It was just so much fun, you know. I don't know. I mean, that was definitely the highlight of not just the show, but also the tour for me. I think was that block of songs of the first half of the set. And the rest was great too. I mean, I think one thing that people may not be aware of from home is that there is a tight curfew in Santa Barbara. It's 10 o'clock and the show started at 6:20, which is quite early for a Fish show, you know? And I think a lot of the set construction at the end was probably done with an eye towards time, you know what I mean? Making sure they got off stage in time to get back on for the encore, and then maybe making sure the encore filled out the time. You know what I mean? It was really fun, but you know, you could maybe say that's why the set kind of went the way it did in a way, you know, maybe just with an eye towards time. But I love especially the first, 2/3 of that set were just unbelievable, I thought.
As someone who spent multiple months living in Santa Barbara as a 25-year-old, I can attest it is a sleepy and quiet town after about 9 p.m. at night. And walking off stage at a Fish show at 10 o'clock is an absolute must. So I definitely feel that. I felt like the latter part of the show felt kind of like, okay, we have time for another song. Let's play a song.
Right.
Okay, we have time for another song. Let's play a song. Okay, we have time for one, and you lose a little bit of flow in that, but like that first, I would call it Blaze On Through the Weak Bog Groove.
Yep, exactly.
Flows really well and kind of takes the approach of the tour thus far, which is let's play a song and just see where it goes, and kind of combines that into 4 or 5 different songs that for me watching at home, there was definitely a sense of like, well, I wish that had continued. Well, I wish that had continued. I think on re-listen, this might sound a little bit more fluid to my ears personally, just because what you're saying, like there's a thematic through line of almost like a horror movie soundtrack throughout all of this. Let's jump into it. Alex, Blaze On, second set opener. Tell me your thoughts.
I thought it was a good version of the song. I took notes last night to kind of prepare a little bit. I didn't have any notes for this song, so no notes. It was great. That's all I got.
My thoughts from Blaze On is eternally. It's really weird to me that Blaze On both was written in 2015 and also was only written in 2015. It is at this point where like it still feels like a new song, but also feels like a song Fish has been playing since 1988 for some reason. I don't know, just it feels so much a part of the band. But every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, cool, we're trying out Blaze On again in this spot. I felt like the jam, like towards the end, I was glad when they moved into Sea of Stars, because it seemed like they were going to have to, it didn't flow jam wise in the same way that like Pebbles and Marbles did, where they were just like, they're in it, and it just like idea after idea keeps coming out. And so it felt like a proper transition. Sea of Stars has always been played, it seems like, with location in mind. You think of Atlantic City, you think of the Gorge, you think here, having been to Santa Barbara, it's one of the prettiest places I've ever been in my entire life. It's one of the most beautiful like parts of America. And the idea of Sea of Stars, kind of the wind just kind of going past you in the venue, the ocean's right there, the mountains are right there. It just felt perfect. And I thought this was the strongest version that they've played since Mohegan Sun, if not even, if not, stronger, just because it seemed like it pointed into a new direction. Jamil, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, and the other thing I just wanted to add on that, and I don't know if this came through in the webcast, but there was not a cloud in the sky. So, I mean, when they turned the lights down, it truly was a sea of stars.
That did not come through. That's awesome.
It was incredible. No, I absolutely. I thought this version was great. I've seen this song. I think I saw this at Dick's maybe this past year. Does that sound right?
Yep.
But I thought this was my favorite version of it that I had seen. I thought the ballad version, like the ballad portion of the song portion, was really patient, which is what that song is all about, just sort of like letting it kind of unravel slowly. And then I thought the evil jam or whatever you want to call it afterwards was also amazing. If in a way a little bit disconnected from what had come before, but I thought it was awesome.
Totally.
Yeah.
Alex, what were your thoughts?
Sea of Stars was fantastic. CK5 cutting the lights during the free jazz section, just it doesn't get much better than that. And then they brought it up from that, and they kind of tied into a theme that's kind of been recurring on this tour, a real Pink Floyd-esque jam to kind of close it out and pick it up and bring it a little heavier, which was interesting to me because in LA here they're having a huge Pink Floyd exhibit. Museum exhibit, and so I'd seen that during the day, so I was very Floyd immersed for the day, and then like to have that on top of it was just kind of bringing it home. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wonder, like, there have been so many rumors. Metal turns 50 years old on October 31st, and I remember back in 2010, before they played Waiting for Columbus, there was like a Rolling Stone interview with Trey, and he said, I'm not going to tell you what album we're playing. All I'm going to say is that this has completely changed the way that I play guitar. And so you're like going back through the 2010 tour ahead of Halloween, being like, what kind of style is he playing in? And it seemed to make sense when they played Waiting for Columbus when that actually happened. But like, I feel like the band playing very Pink Floyd-esque jams in a tour that is leading up to a Halloween on the 50th anniversary of an incredible Pink Floyd album seems way too on the nose.
It's
But
a
at the
red
same
herring.
time,
It has to be all the way. There's
It
no
has
way
to.
they're playing metal.
but at the
I will
same
lose my
time,
stuff, but
right.
it's not happening.
At the same time, like they're playing every jam. You're like, wow, this sounds like something off of Animals. It sounds like something off of Metal. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
We move into 46 days there. And Jamil, you have free reign whenever you need to dip out for work.
And we're coming in right on time. And I honestly,
Cool.
I think I said what I meant to say about the song, kind of in the top of it. I think the set was building to this song. Like you're saying, Blaze On, Jam, Sea of Stars, and that jam's a little bit better. And then you get to 46 Days, and that jam was just insane. You know what I mean?
It was.
I mean, just completely insane. And I just loved it. I loved how crazy it got. I mean, it's interesting talking about Trey's guitar playing. He's playing like some, like, I don't know, like power chords or like, there's something he's playing something that's like kind of metal or punk in like parts of that jam. You know what I mean? That I don't normally hear from him. And I thought it was just awesome. And then did it go into Weekapa or Seeking Sally? Now
Went to Sally.
Went into Sally, that's right. And then that just got a huge, automatic audience reaction. The first time that the first riff of Sally, just people went nuts, and that was definitely, I feel like, the high point of the energy of the show, was right there in the middle.
Yeah, I feel like Sally is one of those songs that like every time they start playing the riff, everybody immediately goes back to 12/30/97,
right,
and it's just like there's like an excitement that swells in the entire fan base. Whoever's there, whoever's online, it's just like, oh my god, they're playing Sally again, and like it's been played, not. It's never been overplayed since late 1997, but it's like been played in a regular rotation where like you have a chance to see the song. I've definitely seen multiple versions of it, but like it's still one of those songs that like harkens back to this moment of Fish lore when like, holy crap, they're playing a song from the 80s that they haven't played since then. And it always seems to go into, a strong jam. And I think back, there was the Bill Graham version from 2016. There's the Gorge version from 2009. This, I don't know if it reached that in a sort of way, but it worked well as like a midpoint,
right?
Keep the energy up, move on from 46 Days and wherever 46 Days was, and then go into its own jam. And I believe it was here that I was hearing Mike mess around with the bass line to Thriller.
Yes.
Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
I missed it, but
okay.
Yeah, I missed
it.
That's all right.
When you go back and listen, like I was like, this is Fish messing with their audience completely, like 1995 lead up to Halloween.
We can scratch Michael Jackson off of the Halloween list at this point,
for eternity.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
But like I was hearing that, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna go into this
unless they bring out the cast of MJ1 or whatever, the Circus Soleil thing.
There were people in my row who started doing this during that jam.
I mean, it was just such a moment of like Fish lore of like, you're the night before the Halloween run, and hey, we're just gonna drop this. If you
Trey's just gonna play Beat It at least twice. Let's just get it over with.
Hey guys, this has been so much fun. Thanks again,
Jamil. Thank you for hanging with us, man.
Nice
this was awesome to talk with you, dude.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you, Alex. See you guys.
See you, man. All right, we'll finish this off here. So Alex, Sneak and Sally then goes into Weekapa, which I don't think anybody expected us to get another Weekapa after they just played Mike's Groove in Phoenix, but this was really cool and went into a very cool jam.
Yeah, the seg was great. Jam was excellent. Machine Gun Trey flourishes, really just bringing the heat. Another long note. Another song, another long note. That was weird. And a second jam. They brought it back and a second jam. Jammed more.
Yeah.
So,
this was great.
That was a heater. And then a great seg into Piper. The
Piper teases that happened.
And then it was teases, and then it kind of segged in, and then they brought it down. Yeah. And And then,
I'm looking at Fishnet right now, and I heard this briefly last night, but there was a Crimes of the Mind tease from Trey as they're winding down Weekapa Groove, and this was kind of the moment where, like, had they gone into Crimes of, I'm guessing, I've got to imagine the band was like, we don't remember. They haven't played Crimes of the Mind, I think, in like 6 years. I don't think it's been 5 years. I think it was
28, 2016, I think was the last
that was
one.
it. Yeah.
that was
And I
at
wonder
that
if
show.
like
Yeah.
Mike was like, I don't know how to play it.
Maybe
And
that
so
must
they
have
went
been because
into About to Run.
I wrote down unknown teas, so I couldn't remember. I know he was like doing something. I couldn't remember what
Yeah.
track it was. So
Yeah.
I mean,
This was kind of a
that
fun,
would have
like,
been crazy.
where are we going? What are we doing? And About to Run, like, I love this
Yeah.
song.
Oh,
I think my only complaint about this song is I wish Trey just used more feedback because it has such a crazy horse vibe and like it just feels like it could swell. But
yeah.
like beyond that, it's an awesome
Well,
song lyrically, and the jam is great.
I don't know if it came through on the webcast, but it was amazing because when Trey brought down the volume at the first time, he not only brought down the volume of the band, he brought down the volume on the room. The entire crowd was with him. It
Yeah.
was just they were crazy for About to Run, and then he brought that volume down, and the whole venue was attentive and with him and brought down. Like
Man, that's awesome.
he had that venue in the palm of his hand at that point in that show.
Oh, I love that.
And it was the most attentive I'd felt a crowd since Magnaball. It was just like just chills. Just it was an amazing moment that probably doesn't come across in the recording.
No,
Like,
sometimes those don't. That's a cool. I really appreciate that insight because I felt that there was a moment during the Piper at Chula Vista where it got quiet and the same sort of thing happened. There were people all around me just like shushing people, and everyone kind of listened and was like, okay, let's focus on what's happening.
But it was like I still had some people talking around me. That's gonna happen.
Sure.
Still felt like the whole volume of the place just went down with the band. It was just like I'm gonna make this move, and this is gonna show whether I have your attention or not. And it
right.
It just
so
that was a really cool moment during the show.
That's awesome.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it in here.
Well, that's how you know it was special. That's how you know it was special. And that's really cool when it happens in like a song that probably won't come across on tape, that probably won't come across if someone rewatches the webcast, but like that speaks to why you have to be there. You know,
and the power of the Ghosts of the Forest set that like people are taking those tunes, and that it's just like, it's coming on that strong with this band. I think a lot of that is, I think a lot of what's coming with the success of Ghosts of the Forest and Lonely Trip is Trey's work with Fishman. Fishman played on that album. Fishman played on Lonely Trip. He played in his band. Like that connection, when it's at that all-time high, is just bringing everything up with it in an amazing way.
It's really interesting you say that, and I don't want to divert us too much, but I was thinking about this at San Francisco Night One. I had a really cool view of the stage. I was kind of Mike's side, just like basically where the 3-point line is, and so I could see like head onto the band, but I was slightly at the side. And I was just thinking at some point during one of the jams, your kind of mind starts to wander as they're just like exploring and stuff. And I was like, how weird is it that for so long we thought of Fish as like this straight line on stage? And then, they did the adjustment in 99 where Trey moved to the side, and then in 2.0, Fishman moved behind, and then they went back to the line. And in 2013, Fishman moves behind Mike and Trey, but he's lower down. It's different than the 2.0 setup. And he's kind of closer to Trey. And I remember reading an interview where Trey was like, I needed to hear Fishman. I couldn't hear him in my monitors. Like I had to actually hear his drumming. And you talk about like their relationship on Ghost of the Forest, on Lonely Trip. Like to me, for everything that Trey has done with his synthesizer pedals and the way that Page reorganized his rig and the way that Mike has really come on this fall in a really fascinating way, none of 2021 happens without Fishman. And Fishman playing then in addition to that with Trey on 2 albums, on the Ghost of the Forest tour, playing the Beacon Ghost of the Forest night last year, joining for the Tab tour when band members started falling off left and right. Like all of those things have led to this, like the original friendship that created Fish, which was Trey meeting Fishman, hearing this guy in his dorm room being like, what the hell is going on? Who is this guy? I have to play with him at 18.
Oh my God, it's that guy.
Right. Oh, it's that guy.
That nerdy guy by the library.
But like now, almost 40 years later, that friendship persists, that friendship continues. And hearing a song like About to Run, which at its core could just be a rock song, and it feels like something so much more when they play it. combined with all the improvisation. I don't know. I was just thinking about how crazy it is that like that simple movement of Fishman from this side of the stage where like the band tried to showcase equality and democracy on stage to okay, Fishman's coming behind because Trey needs to hear his actual drum rig as it's happening live in the moment. How much of that has affected Fish's sound over the last 8 years now, but like really in this tour we're hearing it. I don't know, it's just like there's a moment where I was like, how crazy is it that the band, you look at pictures of them now and that original image of what we all thought of what Fish looked like on stage is vastly different, but it has led to this like renewal of sound and renewal of communication in such a cool way.
Yeah, no, it's just incredible that the way they group work together. Like I love all four musicians; they're all great together. But when
Totally.
you just said Trey and Fishman, I would love to hear. I mean, Lonely Trip is kind of like that, but I'd love to hear a session. Like the 2 sound checks release they have that's just Trey and Fishman. It's like
Yeah.
that's kind of like a peek behind the curtain and
Yeah.
how that works. So
Yeah,
that was
totally.
fantastic.
And then we end the set with a really great ballad selection. If I Could
Yeah,
is the type of song that I will gladly hear that at every Fish show. And part of the problem is that they don't play it at every Fish show because
Right.
it's usually a rare song, but every time it's played, it's gorgeous. And then Sigma Oasis, I thought this was a really strong Sigma Oasis to close it out. It was just high energy. The band seemed to really be feeling it. And, it's kind of like what we were talking about with Set Your Soul Free. It didn't jam like Set Your Soul Free, but it kind of is, where do these new songs go? Let's try it out here. And it just works as a set closer.
It kind of had a Character Zero kind of feel to it.
Yeah,
You know what I
agree
mean?
with
It was
that.
kind of like
Yeah.
it was kind of like here's the new Zero in a
Right.
way, like a little bit.
Right.
Like here's this rockin' tune that we have. It's got a real fun singing songy chorus. And like
Yeah.
it just kind of put like it's just kind of like the period at the end of the sentence.
Yes.
It's not super important to the overall narrative, but it's just this is how we're gonna button this up, and we love this tune, we love their album, bam.
There it is.
That's
It's wow.
That's how it felt to me. But also it felt like last night About to Run was like going to close the set. Like it had a big rock ending at the end, and I thought like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's it, right? Great, like we're gonna be out of here at like 9:45, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, they added 2 more tunes, but the 2 more tunes, of course, were fantastic. So it was kind of weird that it was like it felt like the set was ended, and that's like, oh no, we're gonna. I guess Trey probably checked the time or got something that was like, oh, we have a little more time to stretch out, baby. So, I know he's
Yeah, and I
always
think
thinking clock management.
I think that like speaks to if there was any like critique I would make of last night, it was towards the end of the second set. It felt like there were some unhinged moments because I think you're right. I think it felt like we've got this statement, suite of songs that all kind of work together and all folded into each other. And then there's a break after Weekapog. We play About to Run. That could very easily have closed out, but then we already had a long encore, so who knows what they're going to do for the encore at that point in time. I think that I loved the If I Could. I loved Sigma Oasis in the overall like construction of the set. I don't know if we necessarily needed them there, but
it was almost like we got 2 encores last night.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a really good way to look at it. Yeah.
Like
it was kind of like a pause. We'll play this and then we'll do another encore.
It's like when I go see Guster, sometimes they'll be like, like we're out of time, so we're just gonna act like we went off stage and come back on and do a song or two and be their encore. So it kind of felt like that. It was like, are we rushed for time? Or are we just gonna anyway? So that's kind of what I ran through my mind at that moment.
That's good. I wonder how difficult it is, that clock management aspect on stage. Because like I've got to imagine Trey is the only one who like I've got to imagine Trey controls that. And it's like, no, this is the last song of the set. But I wonder how difficult it is to like be in the moment and then say,
oh yeah,
we got to be done.
How close is it to 10?
Right.
Oh, it's only been this amount. If he's playing and it feels like it's been 65 minutes, but it's really only been 50. Then he's like, oh well, I got to figure out what to do next. So.
Right. Yeah. I wonder what that's because like so much of the Fish experience is how do we remove ourselves from time and how do we like get away from the idea that like
right.
we are managed by a clock, but at the same
Yeah.
time they have a curfew and
Right.
they have to like
Yeah.
operate
If,
like a
yeah.
professional,
If they go
you know.
past 10, it's going to cost them many dollars. Yeah.
Right, right, exactly. Let's run through the encore here, because I
Yeah.
want to give you some time to talk through the Fishonian Institute as well. But cool, kind of random
Yeah.
here. Let's play a song. Let's play a song. Let's play a song.
Yeah. Apparently,
Fuck Your Face is really good. We'll play in the encore. But
apparently the
what were your thoughts?
Wienermobile was in town yesterday, so I think that's what prompted the "fuck your face, meat stick" encore. I think somebody said that to me. I know it was in town. I saw the tweet, so
Oh, that's funny.
that makes sense. But of
Yeah,
course, lizards.
of
Anytime they
course,
play
lizards.
lizards, I'm a happy man. You
Yeah.
know that the ending coda is the best music Trey's ever written. I'm just gonna say that. In my opinion, that's the best thing he's ever written.
Dude, I was
Um,
thinking about that. I listened to so many lizards when we were making Undermine season 1 because we were focused, you know, and a lot of it on Gamehenge and a lot of it on like you know, these original compositions. And I've always loved lizards. I mean, it's always been such a statement fish song. The way, you know, it opens Gamehenge, so it has that you know, like historical importance. But every single time that I hear the closing solo on it, I'm just like, has Trey ever written anything better than this? Like, is there any piece of improv that's better than this? Like, this is, you could listen to this and this is Fish.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure there's something out there. You know,
Yeah, of course, but like it just has that feel.
yeah, no, I mean, for me, of the composed material, that's the strongest piece. And it's funny because I had this random thought at a show a while ago. It was that Trey talked, you know, the song's kind of silly, the lizards, whatever. But in that is probably the most important message Trey conveys: surrender to the flow. It's what I try to strive for every day, and it's really hard to do. And to get to learn that message, then you get probably the best thing he's ever written. And it's kind of
Yeah.
this weird, like, it's a
Yeah.
silly song about lizards and Rutherford the Brave, but it also has the most important message they convey and has the most beautiful piece of music the band plays. It's like you said, it's Fish. It sums up everything about the
Yeah.
band. You have to get through kind of this part to get to the good stuff. And so,
It's the
you know,
eternal conflict
yeah,
with Fish is
yeah,
like you get through this kind of goofiness and then you get to this moment where, and I agree with you. Like I was thinking that during the Chula Vista show, I was really, really close to basically felt like I was watching band rehearsal. And my biggest takeaway, aside from like the music was awesome and I had an incredible time, was the amount of dedication this band has to staying present and staying in the moment and surrendering to the flow, and whatever is going to happen is going to happen. It's such an exercise that they go through on it clearly on a day-to-day basis. And it, I don't know, kind of 80 plus shows in, 20 years into listening to Fish, like kind of restructured how I approach the band all over again, which I don't know if I needed the band to make me see them in a new way for like the 100th time, but it's the amazing thing about them. And
yeah,
you're absolutely right. It's there in Lizards.
yeah.
And then A Life Beyond the Dream, we were talking about Ghost of the Forest. Beautiful, beautiful song. Closes
Yeah.
it out in a really strong way.
It's a great way to end a show. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
message. It's a beautiful song. You know, I there's nothing else I can say about it. You know, I'm never gonna be mad when it's, you know, it's a better song than, you know, if you want the same sentiment thing, you know, it used to be Show of Life. This is a much better song. You know, sorry,
Yeah,
Dude of
that's
Life,
interesting.
but it is, you know. You know, and it's, you know, it's such a positive note to end on. You know, don't give up hope, keep dreaming. And
Yeah.
you know, to me it's just gorgeous. So you know,
Yeah.
I'll never complain when it's on. You know.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, like, you know, all the Eckhart Tolle kind of messaging that Trey has taken to heart and probably needed to take to heart in, you know, the mid 2000s as he was going through his own recovery. It hasn't turned itself into like um you know, vocal statements and like speaking out on social media. It all comes through the music. And
Yeah.
A Life Beyond the Dream is like the perfect song for that, where like he's saying plainly exactly what he feels. You know, this idea that you just can't give up hope, like you don't know what's going to happen, is one of the most inspiring things that the band has ever
Yeah.
sung. But it comes through in the
the
music.
yeah, and the timing of it, you know, coming out in, you know, in this period we're living in right now, you know,
Totally.
it's I wish more people heard it because it feels like the right song for the moment in a way,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion. I know there's
Yeah.
some people who will probably bag on it till the day they die, but for
Yeah.
me, it just it's about and it's kind of in the way going to Fish is. It's taking you out beyond. It's reminding you that there's stuff beyond. You have this endless news cycle, endless beating down of things. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on, but you have to remember there's way more than that's going on. There's
Yeah.
so much more to living and to life,
Yeah.
and doing that it's important to speak to those issues and take note of them, and do what you can, but it it can't be the end all be all at the end of the day. At the end of the day, there's music, there's art, there's you know food. There's
Yeah.
so much more out there that there's
Yeah.
enough to be positive about,
Yeah.
despite all the terrible things that are also going on. So
Yeah. I
that's
think that's
that's what that
perfectly.
song means to me, and that's why I like
Yeah.
hearing him so much.
I think that's perfectly said. And I mean, I think something, and I think like Gorge Night 1 really just like exemplifies this, where they played a lot of ballads. There's a sense of when the band slows down and gets really contemplative, um, their music comes through in such an emotionally heavy way. And I think there's a good reason why they've played A Life Beyond the Dream so much this year, because it's kind of a song that speaks to the moment, speaks to possibilities, speaks to this just sense of, as long as you believe in yourself and in what you're doing, and as long as what you're doing is pure, as long as you're trying to stay in the moment and do the best that you can in this moment, something good can come out of that. And that to
Yeah,
me, beyond anything else, like that will forever be one of the most important things about Fish and about Fish here in 2021. Um, so overall, we've been talking about this show for close to an hour now.
I
Um,
know. So
sounds
much to unpack.
sounds like you enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed last night. I think it's the best show for me personally that I've seen since June 4th, 2011 at Blossom.
That was a
And
great show.
that show. So for me, that show is important because when Fish came back in 2009, I was kind of Coventry had been such a like, this needs to end, let's do this, that when they came back, it was really a toe dip. I was really like, I don't know. My first shows back were at Bonnaroo. Then they
Okay.
played a terrible show at Star Lake, and I was like, I don't know if I'm back into this yet. And in 2010, I didn't see any shows except for Halloween. I only went through
Okay.
Waiting for Columbus, and
Yeah.
I was kind of like done. And I woke up that morning on June 4th. I was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and I had a lawn ticket for Blossom, and I was a little under the weather. And like I borrowed my friend. I was like, am I really gonna go? Like, am I gonna go to Cleveland and see the show? It's a commitment. It's a 2-hour drive. And
Right.
I was like, I have the ticket. I bought the ticket. I should go. So I hadn't heard Bethel. I hadn't been paying attention at all. So I get in the car and I drive. And that show was so amazing that it really snowballed getting back into the band. Like,
Yeah.
that was the moment. It was like, oh, okay, these guys are back. They're
Yeah.
for real. They're trying to make it work and trying to not just run through the tunes. They're trying to keep it interesting, keep it going. And that's why it was really wild to me that last night felt a lot like that night.
Yeah.
And there was
Yeah.
this kind of that the energy is still just really strong. So that was just, again,
I'm pulling up
chills.
the set list because my recollection of that show is you've got the debut of Steam, you've got a really unique
Yep.
Possum,
The
you've got
Possum with the
the
breakdown.
Possum with the
Another
breakdown,
another killer Sneak and Sally.
another
Another
great
Lizards.
an awesome Sneak and Sally, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Harry
Hood, Have
Hood.
Mercy Hood
Yeah.
with a slave encore, and I'm just looking
Mhm.
at Foam in the first set. You get a Fuck Your
Yep.
Face as well. Um,
Yeah. So a lot
uh,
of similarities set list
yeah,
wise as well, which is
yeah,
probably why it also felt that way. So
yeah. It's interesting. Like I think back on another show that I do, The Drop. My co-host and I, Dave Goldstein, we ran through 2011 Summer Fish, and in some ways, it's like this kind of overlooked tour. You
oh
you
yeah,
get a lot of people
totally.
that lump it in with 2009, 2010, and then, oh, by the way, Dick's 2012 happened and everything was back to normal. And like, I think I listened to a lot of summer 2011 Fish, and I listened to this show again this summer for the first time in a long time, because this initial run from Bethel through this Blossom show, you're absolutely right. The band was trying to figure out, like, can we mess with this? Can we put this song here? Can we screw around with this? Like in 2009, 2010, you were almost guaranteed to hear a second set open up with either Rock and Roll or Drowned. It felt like
Yeah.
every single show you went to. And sometimes they went brilliant places, but oftentimes it just felt like we don't know what else to open up with. These songs, these two cover songs, just seem right now. And this felt like the first tour where they were kind of deconstructing that. And later you get the Storage Jam, you get that Super Bowl night 3 show that's just phenomenal. It's interesting that you had kind of those two moments at both this show and then 10 years later in 2021, after the band has accomplished so much, but is still saying, okay, what else is there?
Right, exactly. They're still trying to open doors and change things and really get in there. And and I think it comes down to, again, it was, like 2011, it felt like finally we're gonna try to mix it up. We're gonna try new jam styles. We're gonna get into that Plinko style. We're gonna, mix up set lists a little more, not like a ton, but it felt like they were finally shaking off the timidity that had come from those 2 years. And it was strong. It was kind of solidified when it was strong when we all went to Super Bowl, and Shapiro was like, you have to hear this sound check jam. You have to hear the Bethel Tech Waves. Like, these guys, this is what and it was like, and you heard that and you were like, why? The frustration was, why can't they bring that to the stage? Right? Like, why can't they do that? And I think now it's like they're doing that.
They're
like
doing
now
it.
Like, it took a while, but now they're there. And you heard that in Makasupa, like, not even jamming. Like, Makasupa last night probably was what happened in soundcheck, and they're like, we think this is funny enough that we're going to bring this to the show tonight and see how the crowd reacts. And the crowd ate it up. So I really think that that's kind of a similarity between 2011 and 2021, that it's like they shook off the timidity, and and we had this glimpse of what they could do and how powerful they were back. Now we're seeing that power at full force, and there's no timidity. Now they're like, we can jam any song, anytime, and we'll figure out the rest. Whether that's messing up and trying to finish the ending 6 times in different keys, we're still gonna go for it. So that's the similarity I felt like from why I felt such a renewed energy last night compared to 10 years ago.
Sure. No, and it's interesting, like your thought about, like, we're gonna try this and we're gonna see, like, there's no fear in terms of how they're playing. Like, I think about the Fluffhead opener from Chula Vista. I think about the You Enjoy Myself, the second jam that they went into, which typically is just like a really fun funk jam, in 3.0, 4.0. In both of those instances, they had absolutely no fear and just said, we are going to dive into and see what happens. And every time they try that, they're rewarded. It's not as though they try it and they reach an immediate dead end. They're just rewarded.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, people love the Tahoe Tweezer, and I don't. It's not one of my favorite jams. And the reason being is it's kind of like, again, it's that timidity feeling. They were feeling like, they're like, can we go that long? Are we going to go that long? And it felt length for length's sake. Like, they were trying it. Now they do, a 30-minute Ruby Waves or a 20-minute Pebbles and Marbles, and they're succeeding. And for some reason, there's this confidence that's coming behind that, that's returned. And I wish I could point a finger and be like, that's what happened. And but you can't.
Right.
It's just, it's great that conversion has happened, that it's like they can riff off a 30-minute jam and it doesn't feel like we're afraid to do so. We're doing a 30-minute jam because it feels right, and we're wicked excited to do so. And, we have boundless ideas.
Well, I was thinking about that a lot throughout the shows I saw. That my personal takeaway is that the band dedicated themselves so much from 2013 to the present day to songwriting. And we've had so many songs debuted over the last 8 years, and that process of writing, crafting songs, rehearsing them together, recording them in some cases for albums, playing those songs live has led the band to this spot that they're in now where they feel like they can communicate with each other, maybe not as fast as they could in the 90s, but at least they know that there's a yes and coming every time someone throws out an idea. And that if
Yeah.
Trey throws out a riff, Paige is going to mirror it. And then if Trey, throws out a new effect, Paige is going to mirror that, and it's going to constantly kind of work in and out of itself. And that's what leading some really great jams. So you were going to Vegas. You were
I
you were
am.
heading to Vegas tomorrow, or today, I think.
Tonight. Yeah.
Tonight,
Stoked.
and then you will be seeing shows tomorrow. You
Yes.
will be at the fan art show. Is it on Saturday the 30th?
The fan art show is going to be Saturday, October 30th from noon to 5 at Brooklyn Bowl, Las Vegas.
Beautiful. And
Be there, be
listeners out there can find you at Harry P. Hood as well as
Yes.
at Fishonian. Tell me about the Fishonian Institute. I love what you do. I love the historical record that you were trying to keep for this band. We were talking about this before we went live. I think it is one of the great services in our community. I want to give you the floor for however long you need. Tell us about what you're doing and kind of anything that we need to know about your project.
Yeah, sure. So the Fishonian Institute, basically what we'd like to eventually do is be the Museum of Fish, or work on exhibits about fish and things like that. And right now it's a one-man operation that I fund with my own hard-earned dollars. So maybe one day we'll organize better than that. But anyway, it kind of started, I went to grad school to try to break in the music industry. I did an entertainment business degree, and at the end of it, they make you do a business plan. Somehow that evolved into creating a business plan for a museum for fish in Burlington. I've never presented that to the band, but that's kind of where my head went. From that, I was like, well, I should learn to take care of things. So I went and got my master's in archives management, which has led me into a fine career as a public librarian in Hampton Roads. So that's been fun. But on top of that, I've kind of been taking it myself. I was presented with an opportunity by Pete Mason of Fan Art when the Fish Studies Conference happened out in Oregon. Well, first I started as a blog, and I wrote about the first 100 shows. I was going to listen to every show, and I was just like, I lost my mind doing it. Like, I was like listening to things and being like, did I already hear this? So I kind of gave up on that. It's fine. First 100 shows is great.
Yeah. And not a lot of people listen to the first 100 shows. As someone who listened to a lot of 80s Fish and like started like recommending 80s Fish jams to people, like nobody knew what I was talking about. And they are not the same band that they would be 10 years later, but you can hear hints of it.
Not even 5 years later, not even 2 years later. Like,
right.
It's so wild back then. So I gave up on that, and I was like, I think somebody else pick up the ball, fish base. I was like, you have fun with that. So I was trying to figure it out. I started doing the radio show on Jemp, which I do on Thursdays at 2 Eastern, the Fishonian Hour. Kind of like we were talking about 2011. I did one where I was highlighting 2011 all summer this year, which was fun. And just kind of figuring out projects. And so anyway, Fish Studies Conference 2018. Pete, it's like, I'm doing a gallery of fan art. And he posted on Twitter, and I was like, Pete, I'm getting my museum studies degree, archives. You need to let me work on this. So we had a phone call, and I was like, just let me know what art you have, and I'll run with the ball with it. I had about 4 months to prep on that one, and we did this great exhibit in the lobby, all about fish's history in the Pacific Northwest, and how it's the origins of the Big Ball Jam, and the origins of the Glow Stick War, and the Tortilla Wars, and just basically how important, it's an overlooked, the Pacific Northwest is an overlooked spot in fish's touring, because after 97, it's just the gorge. And also before that, the shows aren't very large, but there's actually a rich history. There's a performance of Gamehenge, like I said, the Big Ball Jam, the Glow Stick Wars, the gorge. There's a huge link there about the band's history that I could put through in artwork and, tickets and everything like that. And also just panels and telling the story. So that was a great experience. I had a lot of that stuff. Thank you for Stephanie Jenkins, of course, Philosophy School of Fish, who organized the whole thing, Benton County Museum. And and it was a really great experience. And it's like, how do I do that again? And and I like, do I do it again? Is it going to happen again? And it's hard, because I'm doing this myself. I'm
Sure.
also working a full-time job.
Sure.
I don't really have any money.
Sure.
So, it's not something where I can be like, I'm going to go do this. I'm just going to do it now and bam. So leading up to the fan art show in Vegas, I was like, here's an opportunity where people are going to be gathered. There's an actual show. I can actually do this in front of people. But the problem was, with everything being so in flux, coming to Vegas was kind of a later decision. Was I
Sure.
actually able to go to Vegas? And so probably we finalized everything about it 2 weeks ago. So I had to get this exhibit ready in about 2 weeks, which a typical museum exhibit, you have about a year or two to get everything together. And I have only attended Vegas in 3.0, so I do not have a ton of great artifacts, but Pete does, which is great. Working with the Fan Art Archive helps things immensely. He's been collecting since 2009, and he works with artists, so he's got a lot of great stuff. So it's not so. What this is it's a history of fish in Las Vegas, kind of like the Pacific Northwest. Again, the West Coast is very important to fish, but in all ways, and also it's not thought of as it's not Madison Square Garden, it's not Vermont, it's not Massachusetts. But so what it is the exhibit. It's going to be not going to be very large. It's a tiny exhibit, but being there and just being able to do it is more than enough for me. Hopefully, maybe somebody will come by and be like, "This is great. Let's work." I would love that. I would love to reach out and be able to do stuff for the organization. It'd be great. If it doesn't happen, it's great. I'll figure it out. But anyway, so the title of this one is "Fish Beats the Odds: Glory, Ruin, and Redemption in Las Vegas." And it's all about how the band kind of establishes their entertainment career, in the 96 Elvis Encore. Then they start Fish Destroys America in Las Vegas. The first show of fall 97 is in Las Vegas.
Amazing
Halloween
stash.
98. Halloween 98, is all about the shift from kind of songs don't matter to songs matter, and how important that is, and how that came through in Farmhouse and up to today. Then of course you have 2003 is forgotten about because it's the most boring 2-run show they ever do in Las Vegas. And there's a great article there's a review from Rolling Stone saying as such that I have in the exhibit. And then of course 2004. If you don't know about Vegas in 2004, come to the exhibit. You'll learn a lot.
Whew.
I reproduced Jesse Jarno's review for you to read in entirety.
Those were shows 3, 4, and 5 for me.
Yeah. There's good stuff there. They're not totally terrible, but they're not the greatest of shows. So
it was a tough run to stomach as a 19-year-old, thinking I was walking into the second coming of the Island tour. I will just put it at that for now, but we could probably do another hour of that run.
That's a whole episode itself. So anyway, you can learn more about that and see some stuff from that. And then the last bit, of course, is 10 years later, they come to Las Vegas and they do Chilling Thrilling Sounds, and they do Ziggy Stardust, and they do Casbah Vox. It's right in front of me. I don't know why I'm forgetting it. And just how they took this place where they were at their lowest low, and 10 years later they're at their highest high. And so that's how Las Vegas has become probably, I don't know if it's the most important, but it's just as important as anywhere else in the band's history, and trying to tell that through this story and some artifacts to support it. The artifacts, I wish I had all the money in the world to buy Pollux and do fun things. I don't. Maybe I'll hook up with Jenny at some point and get loans. But for now, for a week, I think I have a really great thing for people to come see. And I hope we get a lot of people to come check it out, and of course support all the great artists at Fan Art. So
well, I hope that people are coming to check this out, and from a personal standpoint, and this kind of harkens back to our conversation as we were talking through about a life beyond a dream. Like, I love the angle that you're taking in terms of redemption, following all of this darkness. Part of my fascination with Fish, this as someone who's been listening to Fish for as long as you have, who's been studying this band, who's listened to the first 100 Fish shows. Like, not a lot of people have done that. One of the most interesting things about Fish is that they were this completely joyful band that hit this insane peak in 1995, had to reinvent themselves, but that reinvention started to lead the way to darkness. And that darkness ultimately ended in a muddy field in Coventry, Vermont, where I was 19. The only shows I saw in 04 were Vegas and Coventry. What luck. They still are, fascinating, experiences to dive into in terms of where the band was at the time. And I stand by, like, I love 2003. That's my favorite. It's one of my favorite years of Fish, behind 95, 97. But uh where the band was at that point in their lives, and at that point in their overall career in 2004, is this fascinating look into what the road and what a lack of personal health and control, and really like the challenges that they were going through, what that actually can mean. And I remember when they booked Vegas 2014 thinking, is this dangerous? Like, has Trey been back to Vegas since all of this stuff happened, and kind of being worried. And then they come out of that run, and it's such an incredible run. There's almost like this, they had done Wingsuit the year before, but there's almost this reinvention of what is possible with Halloween through Chilling Thrilling. And that 11/2 show stands up as one of my favorite shows of that overall year. And then the two subsequent Halloween's runs since then have all been phenomenal. So I love the angle. I love the art. I would encourage everyone, give us one more time. Brooklyn Bowl, Saturday, October 30th from noon to 5. Do I have that right?
That's right. You got it.
That's right.
It's a
All right.
really easy stop on the monorail from MGM. So
it's an easy stop.
There
will be an HFPod show being happening at that point as well. You will be setting up. You'll be doing a live show as well. And I think we've talked for almost an hour and a half now about one show plus some big ideas. I think we need to continue this conversation because I love what you're doing. I really love the historical approach to it. As someone who studied history, who nearly went to graduate school for a master's in library science, beyond just Fish, I think we'd have a lot to dive into. But I've really enjoyed this, Alex, and I really appreciate all your time and all your insights.
Of course. Two more things.
Sure.
Go to my website, fishsonian.net. If you're going to Vermont, there's a historic walking tour of Burlington you can look at on my website. And then also Venues of Fish map, which I'm building on. So exciting stuff there. But anyway, it's been great to be on here. So thanks for having me, Ryan. It's been awesome.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm really glad that you got a good show last night in Santa Barbara. Not just a good show, a very special show. That's something.
It felt amazing. It was a great night.
And I feel like you spoke to, I walked out of Chula and I had to do this with RJ on Sunday morning. And I felt like I was just like, I don't know, man, everything was great. So I really appreciate all the thought that you put into all of this. We'll have to do this again. Good luck and safe travels to Las Vegas. And we'll talk to you again soon, Alex.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan.
All right, man. We'll talk. Bye. All right. Thank you everyone for hanging with us here. Long, supersized episode, but I thought it was really great. It was really awesome to talk to Alex. He's someone I've always wanted to talk fish with, and it was just fantastic for us to dive into last night's show, the tour, where the band is, as well as his work with the Fishonian. So check out Brooklyn Bowl, October 30th, noon to 5. There's a fan art show in there. There will be a HFPod show that's happening. A lot of great guests, as well as Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific. There'll be an HFPod show as well. I will be back here 4 days this weekend, covering Fish in Las Vegas. We've got some great guests lined up, and we've got our final HFPod show of this on tour series that we've been doing since the band came back. So really, really excited for all of this. The next weekend, we got 4 shows that should be incredible. I'm really, really, really stoked for what the band is going to do. Have no idea, but also that's kind of the magic of it. And just the way that they're performing right now, it seems like anything is possible. Before we go, I will give a shout out to our media partner at Jambase. Thank you, Jambase, for everything that you do here for Osiris Media. You're an amazing partner. As well as HFPod on Tour is presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis. Visit shiftcannabis.com for all your cannabis needs in the state of Colorado. And with that, I will exit this supersized episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everybody, for commented. Really appreciate all the engagement and interaction. For everyone going to Las Vegas, safe travels. surrender to the flow as you're dealing with any sort of flight delays. I know I had a crazy flight delay flying back from LA that was due to the latch on the door not working, and they had to tape it shut, which was just everything that you want to hear when you're flying on an airplane in 2021. But safe travels to everyone heading there. Enjoy yourself. Drink lots of water. It's very, very dry there. That's my biggest recommendation. But stay safe, be good to each other, and enjoy whatever it is that Fish has in store for us right now. It's a good, good, good time to be a Fish fan. Hope you're all well. I will see you all Friday morning.